Hello, figure lovers. Today, we're taking a look at Kotobukiya's Street Fighter Cammy Bishoujo statue 1/7 scale. Considering all the hype behind the new Prime 1 Street Fighter 6 Classic Cammy Ultimate 1/4 statue, I figured I would give this figure a review and let people know that you can still pick this up if the Prime 1 Studio $1,600 price tag is out of your price range. So you can still pick this figure up for about $250. Some may think that that's a fairly high price considering the figure originally debuted for less than $70. But if you truly are a Street Fighter fan and you want a taste of Cammy but not at a $1,600 price tag, then this could be the figure for you. We're going to take a look at some of the pros and the cons of this figure and admire some of the details, and maybe by the end of this review, some of you will add Kotobukiya Cammy to your collection. So just looking at this figure, I can tell you that they spent a lot of time detailing the muscles. She looks strong and powerful, everything that she would need to kick Ryu's butt if she needed to. There's a fantastic sheen to her gauntlets that really stands out from the matte whiteness of her skin. They went through and they made a different shade for her skin versus her gauntlets, even versus her beret, and there's some subtle shading in there. Now, she isn't as detailedly shaded as some of my other figures. In fact, I would say that the skin and the body formation is very well sculpted, but they didn't go into a whole lot of detail and trying to bring out those shades. And I guess that's great for Cammy because they wanted her to look powerful, but still have this soft sense to her, because we know that she is one of the original Street Fighter goddesses, and she's got to bring that presence to the table. But yes, even the muscles, like in the shoulders, all the way down to the braid detail in her hair, I just think she looks fantastic. You can even tell that there's some subtle shading in her bodysuit. Again, everything is very soft, almost barely there, but just enough to bring out those details. Now, if you take a look at the base actually comes with an insert where you see like there's a 2D version of the pose that she's in. You can actually trade that out for a straight up Street Fighter logo that came with the figure, but I left it in the box because I can't get enough of this pose. So why not also add the 2D version in the base? And as you look at more details of this figure, it's like I don't even see a lot of paint bleed. But she definitely isn't perfect. When you take a closer look at the legs, you can clearly see a mold line that was created during the production of the figure, as well as some glue assembly that can be seen between the legs and the leotard section of the figure, both in the back and the front, as well as a slight gap. So this figure isn't without imperfections, but for a figure that was initially under $70, you do get what you pay for. I also wish they had put a little more detail in her boots, because you have this slight shading in her body and her bodysuit, and even her braids and her beret. But when you get down to her boots, they just look kind of boring. It's like maybe they got tired and they felt like, okay, well, everything else looks great. We're just not going to pay much attention into the boots. So that is maybe a little disappointing. I wish they had maybe added just a little bit of shading kind of to bring out those details. But yeah, for the most part, I think this is a fantastic rendition of Cammy. I think they did a great job on her. Is she anywhere near as detailed as the Prime 1 Studio version? Of course not. You know, you get what you pay for, but I still think it's a fantastic collector's item. It is very well done. And even doing this review, you know, this figure has been sitting on my shelf for several years. I have neglected to see the details even in her face. Like, they did a fantastic job with her eyes and her expression. Just a little more detailed peek of the Kotobukiya Street Fighter Cammy Bishoujo statue. They did a fantastic job on her. You can see the glint just shining off of her gauntlets, and even just like a little bit of nail polish on her fingers. You know, just for that little detail, you know, they really did a fantastic job on her. So this is the Kotobukiya 1/7 scale Street Fighter figure. It came out in 2018, still beautiful, and roughly stands at about 20 centimeters from the base to the top of her beret, which is about 8¼ inches. But if you go below her base, of course, you add about another 1/4 inch to that, or about another centimeter. So if you want to pair her up with any other figures, just know that she's about an 8½ inch figure, standing next to most. And I still think she'll pair well with anything in your collection.